Get down. She didn't think, just moved. Her body slammed into his as the black sedan screamed past, inches from death. She hit the pavement hard, her vision blurring, pain exploding through her ribs. And then his face was above hers, eyes wide with something she'd never seen in all her surveillance. Fear. Not for himself. For her. His hands trembled as they pressed against her bleeding side, and he whispered in broken English, "Stay with me, please stay." In that moment, Detective Maya Chen realized she'd just saved the life of the man she'd sworn to destroy. If you felt that pull, that impossible choice between duty and heart, then you understand why some stories need to be told. Subscribe, like and comment where you're watching from, and may this story find you peace, because what comes next will test everything you believe about justice, love, and the masks we wear to survive. The fluorescent lights in the briefing room buzzed like dying insects. Detective Maya Chen sat rigid in her chair, her fingers interlaced so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Around the table, 6 faces stared at the projection screen where a single photograph dominated the wall. Kong Jin-woo. Even in a still image, he radiated danger. Sharp jawline, eyes like black ice, an expression that gave away nothing. The photo had been taken outside his nightclub in Koreatown, the Red Moon. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than Maya's annual salary, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a phone to his ear. Casual. Confident. Untouchable. "He's a ghost," Captain Morrison said, his voice gravelly from 30 years of cigarettes and bad coffee. "No arrests. No witnesses willing to talk. No evidence that sticks. But we know," he slammed his palm on the table, "we know he runs the largest Korean organized crime network on the West Coast. Extortion, illegal gambling, trafficking. And we believe he's responsible for at least 9 murders in the past 3 years." Maya's jaw clenched. 9 murders they could prove. How many they couldn't? Her brother's face flashed in her mind. Daniel, 23, bright-eyed, 1 semester away from graduating medical school. Found in an alley 5 years ago with 2 bullets in his chest. Wrong place, wrong time, the file said. Witnessed something he shouldn't have. The investigation pointed to a Korean syndicate, but stalled when witnesses vanished and evidence disappeared. She'd become a cop because of Daniel. Every case, every arrest was for him. Maya. She looked up. Morrison's eyes were gentle, understanding. He knew her history. That's why he'd chosen her. "You're our best undercover operative. You speak Korean, you can blend in the community, and frankly, you've got the most reason to want this bastard behind bars." He paused. "But I need to know you can keep it professional. Can you do this without it becoming personal?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "It won't be personal, Captain. It'll be justice." A lie. They both knew it. "You'll go in as a hostess at the Red Moon. We've created a background, Ji-Eun Park, newly arrived from San Francisco, looking for work. Your contact inside will get you the interview. Once you're in, get close. Earn his trust. Find evidence we can use." Morrison leaned forward. "And Maya? Be careful. Men like Kong Jin-woo don't get to where they are by being stupid. One slip and—" "I understand, sir." "Good. You start Monday." 11,000 miles away, or rather, 15 blocks across the city, Kong Jin-woo sat in a private room at Hanjeongseok, the finest Korean restaurant in Koreatown, listening to a man beg for his life. "Please, Jin-woo SSI, I just need another month. The shipment was seized, but I can make it back." "Mr. Park." Jin-woo's voice was quiet, almost gentle. He didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. "When you borrowed from me, you knew the terms. You have built your business on my trust. Now you ask me to extend that trust further, after you've already broken it once." The man across from him, a middle-aged restaurant owner with sweat beading on his forehead, wrung his hands together. "My daughter, she's in college if I don't." Jin-woo held up a single finger. Silence fell instantly. "I know about your daughter. Yonsei University, studying biology. A good student." He let that hang in the air, watching Park's face drain of color. "Not a threat. Just information. Just power. I also know you have been gambling again. That is where your money went. Not business. Not your family. Your addiction." Park's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Jin-woo stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced precision. I will give you 2 weeks. Not for you. For your daughter, who deserves better than a father who throws her future away on cards. He moved toward the door, then paused. But Mr. Park? If you gamble even once in those 2 weeks, I will know. And then there will be no more extensions. No more mercy. Do you understand? Why, yes. Yes, thank you, Jin-woo SSI, thank you. Jin-woo left without another word. In the hallway, his right-hand man Min-jun fell into step beside him. You're getting soft, Min-jun muttered in Korean. I'm being practical. A dead debtor pays nothing. A terrified one pays everything. Jin-woo's expression didn't change. Besides, the daughter is innocent. You always were weak for family. Jin-woo's hand shot out, gripping Min-jun's arm with enough force to make the larger man wince. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Don't mistake strategy for weakness, Min-jun. I've built this organization by knowing when to use the knife and when to use the leash. Min-jun bowed his head slightly. Of course. My apologies. They exited onto the street where Jin-woo's car waited, a black Mercedes, understated but bulletproof. As his driver opened the door, Jin-woo's gaze swept the street out of habit. Always watching. Always aware. Across the street, partially hidden behind a newspaper at a bus stop, a woman watched him through sunglasses. He noticed her, trained instinct, but dismissed it. Just another face in Koreatown. Just another person trying to survive. He had no idea she was memorizing everything. The car. The security. The patterns. He had no idea that in 2 weeks, she would save his life. And he had absolutely no idea that doing so would destroy them both. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Maya had gotten the job at the Red Moon on her 3rd day, easier than expected. The manager, a woman named Mrs. Lim, barely glanced at her fake references before handing her the uniform, a sleek black dress, elegant but modest, with the club's Crimson Moon logo embroidered on the shoulder. You speak Korean well, Mrs. Lim had said, studying her. Where did you say you were from? Busan originally. My family moved to San Francisco when I was 12. The lie rolled off her tongue like truth. She'd practiced it 1,000 times. Well, you're pretty enough. The VIP section needs servers. Show up on time, keep your head down, and don't ask questions about the clients. Understand? Yes, ma'am. That was it. She was in. But getting close to Jin-woo was different. He rarely came to the club, maybe twice in 14 days. When he did, he stayed in the private rooms on the 3rd floor, areas she couldn't access without raising suspicion. She'd served drinks to his associates, collected fragments of conversations, passed low-level intel to her handlers. Nothing concrete. Nothing useful. Captain Morrison was getting impatient. Tonight, Maya walked home alone just after midnight, her feet aching in heels she'd stuffed into her bag the moment she left the club. The streets of Koreatown were quieter now, just the hum of late-night neon and the occasional passing car. She was thinking about her next move. Maybe she could befriend Min-jun's girlfriend, get an invitation to one of the inner circle gatherings, when she heard it. An engine. Roaring. Too fast. Her cop instincts screamed alive. She spun around and saw Jin-woo, 20 feet ahead, stepping out of a late-night dumpling shop. Alone. No security. Rare. Almost unheard of. And barreling down the street toward him, a black sedan, headlights off, accelerating. Everything slowed down. She saw the angle. The trajectory. The intention. This wasn't an accident. This was an execution. Move. Move. Maya didn't think. Didn't calculate. Didn't remember she was supposed to be Ji-Yun Park, a hostess who shouldn't care if her boss lived or died. She just ran. Get down. Her body collided with his like a freight train, her shoulder driving into his chest. They went down hard, tumbling across the sidewalk. She felt the rush of air as the sedan screamed past, so close the side mirror clipped her leg. Pain. Immediate and sharp. Then tires screeching. The sedan fishtailing, trying to turn around for another pass. Jin-woo was on top of her, shielding her body with his, and she heard him shouting in rapid Korean into his phone. calling for help for backup. The sedan's engine revved again. "Can you move?" His voice, urgent, in her ear. Yes." He pulled her up, half carrying her into the narrow alley between buildings just as the sedan roared past again, bullets sparking off brick where they'd been seconds before. They pressed against the wall, his arms around her, both breathing hard. And then sirens. The sedan peeled away. Maya looked down. Blood soaked through her jeans where the mirror had torn into her thigh. The adrenaline was fading. The pain was rising. "You're hurt." Jean Woo's hands were on her leg, applying pressure, and she noticed, God, she noticed, they were shaking. "I'm fine, You saved my life." He looked up at her, and his eyes were nothing like the photographs. Nothing like the cold crime lord she'd studied. They were wide, stunned, human. "Why?" "Because I'm a cop and civilians need protection, even criminals. Because instinct overrode mission. Because for one insane second, I forgot who you are." "I don't know," she whispered. His thumb pressed harder against her wound, trying to stop the bleeding, and she hissed in pain. "Ambulance is coming. Stay with me." His voice cracked slightly on the last word. "Please. Stay with me." The vulnerability in his voice cracked something in her chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to be real. Darkness crept in at the edges of her vision. The last thing she saw before she passed out was Kong Jin-woo's face hovering above hers, his expression twisted in something that looked almost like fear. Not for himself. For her. When instinct overwrites duty, when the monster shows you his humanity, what then? Because saving his life was easy. Living with the consequences? That's the real story. Maya's eyes opened to white ceiling tiles and the sterile smell of antiseptic. Not a hospital. Too quiet. Too luxurious. She tried to sit up, and pain lanced through her thigh like a hot wire. A hand, gentle but firm, pressed her shoulder back down. "Don't move yet. The stitches are fresh." An older Korean man in a white coat stood beside her bed, checking in 4 drip. A private doctor. Of course Jin-woo would have a private doctor. Where? Mr. Kang's personal medical facility. "You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Mild concussion, 18 stitches in your left thigh, bruised ribs, and various contusions." The doctor's tone was professional, but his eyes were kind. "You're very lucky. A few inches higher and that mirror would have severed your femoral artery." "Lucky. Right. I need to go home. Mr. Kong has covered all your medical expenses. He's also arranged for." "I need to leave. Now." Panic clawed at her throat. How long had she been here? Had anyone searched her apartment? Her phone. Where was her phone? "Your belongings are on the table. But I really must advise." Maya was already swinging her legs over the side of the bed, biting back a scream as her thigh protested. The doctor sighed and left the room, muttering about stubborn patients. The moment he was gone, she grabbed her phone. 17 missed calls. 12 from an unknown number, Jin-woo, probably. 5 from her partner, Detective Chris Park. She called Chris first. "Jesus Christ, Maya. Where the hell have you been?" His voice was a furious whisper. "I'm fine. There was an assassination attempt. On Kong Jin-woo. That we only know about because it's all over the goddamn Korean news sites. And you were there. What happened?" Maya closed her eyes. "I was walking home. Wrong place, wrong time. The car almost hit me too." "Bullshit." Chris's voice went deadly quiet. "I know you, Maya. What did you do?" Silence stretched between them. "You saved him." Not a question. An accusation. "You blew your cover to save a mobster's life." "I didn't blow my cover. I reacted on instinct. He thinks I'm just a hostess who happened to be there." "And now you're in his private medical facility? Now he's paying your bills?" "Maya, do you have any idea how this looks?" "It looks like I'm getting closer to him. He trusts me now. Or he's suspicious. Men like Kong don't trust coincidences." Chris exhaled sharply. "Captain Morrison wants you pulled out." "No." The word came out harder than she intended. "Chris, I'm this close. For the first time since I went under, I have his attention. Real attention. Don't pull me now. He's a monster, Maya. He's killed people. He's destroyed families. Your own brother. I know what he is. Her hand clenched around the phone. That's exactly why I need to finish this. A long pause. You've got 1 week. Morrison says if you don't bring us something concrete in 1 week, you're done. Understand? Understood. She hung up and stared at her phone. 17 missed calls. The unknown number had left 1 voicemail. Against her better judgment, she played it. Jean Woo's voice, low and controlled but with an edge of something else underneath. The doctor says you left against his advice. Stubborn. I'm sending a car to take you home. Don't argue. You were hurt because of me. Let me do this one thing. A pause, then softer. Thank you. For what you did. I won't forget it. Maya deleted the voicemail immediately, her heart hammering. This was fine. This was good. She was getting closer. That was the mission. So why did his voice make her chest feel tight? Why did the memory of his shaking hands refuse to leave her mind? On her nightstand, delivered while she slept, sat a vase of white orchids and a handwritten note in elegant Korean script. To the brave one. Rest well. KJ. Maya crumpled the note in her fist. He was still the target. Still the enemy. Still the man whose organization might have killed her brother. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. She buried her face in her hands and tried to remember why she'd become a cop in the first place. Tried to remember that monsters don't have shaking hands and voices that crack with fear. Tried. And failed. Maya lasted exactly 2 days in her cramped studio apartment before Jean Woo showed up at her door. She opened it to find him standing in the hallway, impeccably dressed as always, but his expression was different. Concerned. Almost apologetic. You shouldn't be walking on that leg yet, he said without preamble. I'm fine. The doctor said you need rest. Proper rest. His gaze swept past her into the tiny apartment, 1 room barely furnished, the kind of place Ji-Yun Park could afford on a hostess salary. His jaw tightened. You're staying here? Alone? After what happened? I can take care of myself. Clearly. His tone was dry, but not unkind. Which is why you collapsed trying to make coffee this morning and your neighbor called me, worried. Maya's face flushed. Mrs. Kim from 3B. The sweet, elderly woman who'd brought her soup yesterday. Of course she had Jean Woo's number. Half of Koreatown probably did. It was just a dizzy spell. You have a concussion. Jean Woo stepped closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and understated. And you're recovering from a trauma that happened because someone tried to kill me. I have a responsibility. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. The words came out fierce, intense, and for a moment his carefully controlled mask slipped. You could have died. You should have walked away. But you didn't. So please, his voice softened, let me do this. Let me make sure you're safe while you heal. Maya knew she should refuse. Knew that accepting meant crossing a line she couldn't uncross. But Chris's words echoed in her mind. You've got 1 week. And here was Jean Woo, handing her exactly what she needed. Access, proximity, time. She should say yes for the mission. So why did it feel like she was saying yes for entirely different reasons? Just until I can walk properly, she heard herself say. Relief washed over his features. Just until then. His penthouse was everything her apartment wasn't. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than a car, art on the walls that she recognized from her training as legitimate museum pieces. But it was also unexpectedly warm. Books in Korean and English lined one wall. Photographs of what looked like family, a younger Jean Woo with an elderly woman, both smiling in a garden. Fresh flowers on the dining table. The guest room is through there, he said, setting her small bag down. Anything you need, just ask. I've arranged for the doctor to check on you every other day. You really don't have to. I want to. He met her eyes, and the sincerity there made her breath catch. You saved my life, Ji-Yun. That means something to me. It means everything. The lie of her name on his lips felt like a blade. The first night was awkward. They moved around each other like strangers, polite and distant. The second night he brought her tea, jasmine, perfectly steeped, and sat on the opposite end of the couch while she pretended to watch TV. "You don't have to keep me company," Maya said, hating how small her voice sounded. "I'm not." He was reading a book, glasses perched on his nose, a detail that made him look younger, almost vulnerable. "I'm reading. You just happen to be in the same room." A smile tugged at her lips despite herself. By the third night, the silence had become comfortable. He asked about her family. She gave him the cover story: parents in San Francisco, working in a restaurant, saving money to bring them here someday. All lies. But he listened like every word mattered. "What about you?" she asked, surprising herself. "Your family." His expression shuddered slightly. "My parents died when I was 19. Car accident." He paused. "I have a younger sister. She's in college. Doesn't know about this life. I keep it that way. To protect her. To give her choices I never had." The raw honesty in his voice cracked something open inside her chest. "The woman in the photo," Maya ventured. "In the garden?" "My grandmother. She raised us after our parents died. Taught me everything important: honor, loyalty, how to make proper kimchi." A ghost of a smile. "She died 3 years ago. This penthouse. I bought it because the view reminded her of Seoul. She never got to see it." Maya's throat tightened. This wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to talk about grandmothers and kimchi and protection. He was supposed to be a monster. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Jin-woo looked at her, really looked, and something passed between them, recognition maybe. Or the beginning of something far more dangerous. "So am I," he said quietly. And Maya realized with creeping dread that he wasn't talking about his grandmother anymore. The file was an accident. Maya told herself that later, when guilt threatened to drown her. She'd been looking for the bathroom, took a wrong turn in the sprawling penthouse, and found herself in Jin-woo's study. She should have turned around immediately. Instead, her cop instincts kicked in. The desk was meticulously organized. Laptop closed and likely encrypted. But there, in a locked drawer that wasn't quite locked, careless, so unlike him, she found a folder marked with a single date. Her hands shook as she opened it. Transaction records. Names. Photographs of men she didn't recognize. And then, stapled to a faded police report, her brother's face. Daniel Chun. Age 23. Deceased. The room tilted. Her vision tunneled on a single line of text: witness elimination authorized. Target: Daniel Chun. Operator: unknown. Status: complete. 5 years ago. The exact date Daniel died. This organization. Jin-woo's organization. It wasn't a theory anymore. It was proof. Jian. Maya slammed the folder shut, shoving it back into the drawer. Jin-woo stood in the doorway, wearing a simple t-shirt and sweatpants. She'd never seen him so casual. So human. "I got lost," she said quickly. "Too quickly. I was looking for." "The bathroom is 2 doors down." His gaze flicked to the desk, then back to her face. "Searching. Are you all right? You look pale." "Just tired. The medication makes me dizzy." He crossed to her in 3 strides, his hand gentle on her elbow. "Come on. You should rest." As he guided her out, she caught sight of a framed photograph on his desk she hadn't noticed before. Jin-woo, maybe 17, in a high school uniform, smiling beside a young girl. His sister. Both of them looking so innocent. So normal. How did someone go from that to authorizing murders? That night, she couldn't sleep. She found Jin-woo on the balcony at 2 a.m., staring out at the city lights, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Can't sleep either?" he asked without turning around. Maya wrapped her arms around herself against the cool night air. "Too much on my mind." He poured a second glass from the bottle beside him, offered it to her. She took it, their fingers brushing. "Do you ever regret it?" The words escaped before she could stop them. "The choices you've made?" Jin-woo was quiet for a long moment. "Every single day." The honesty startled her. "Then why?" Because regret doesn't change necessity. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were haunted. My parents were killed by the Choi family. Rival gang. I was 19, my sister was 12. The police did nothing, said it was gang violence, not worth investigating. No one protected us. No one cared. Maya's chest tightened. So I made a choice. I could let the choice take everything, our home, our business, our lives. Or I could fight back. He drained his glass. I told myself it would be temporary. Just until my sister was safe. Just until we had enough to disappear. But you didn't disappear. No. His laugh was bitter. Because once you step into this world, it doesn't let you go. Every choice leads to another. Every enemy eliminated creates two more. Every dollar earned comes with blood on it. He set his glass down carefully. I built an empire to protect one person. And in doing so, I became exactly what I was fighting against. Maya's voice came out as a whisper. Do you ever think about the people you've hurt? The families you've destroyed? His jaw clenched. Constantly. And I tell myself they were necessary casualties. That in this business, it's kill or be killed. That my sister's safety justifies everything. He turned to face her fully. But late at night, when I can't sleep, I wonder if I'm just a monster who's convinced himself he has noble reasons. The vulnerability in his confession made her want to scream. Because she'd seen that file. She knew what his organization had done to Daniel. But standing here, looking at the brokenness in his eyes, she couldn't reconcile the man in front of her with the monster she needed him to be. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Jin-Woo reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed a strand of hair from her face. Because you saved my life without knowing anything about me. Without wanting anything in return. And I realized. His voice dropped to something raw. I haven't talked to someone real in years. Everyone wants something. Everyone's afraid. But you just acted. Purely. Bravely. If only you knew, she thought, her heart breaking. If only you knew what I really am. You don't know me at all, Maya whispered. Then let me. His thumb traced her cheekbone, and she felt herself leaning into the touch despite everything. Let me know the woman brave enough to throw herself in front of a car for a stranger. She should step back. Should maintain distance. Should remember Daniel's face in that file. Instead, she heard herself ask, what happened to the Choi family? Something dark flickered across his expression. They're gone. Destroyed. Scattered. He paused. I'm not proud of what I did to them. But I'd do it again. For my sister. For family. For family. The words echoed in Maya's mind as she stared at the man who'd ordered her brother's death. Indirectly, maybe, unknowingly, possibly, but whose organization had pulled the trigger nonetheless. And the worst part? She was starting to fall for him anyway. The attack came on a Wednesday. Maya was in the kitchen making breakfast, a small act of normalcy that felt almost domestic, when Jin-Woo's phone erupted with calls. She watched his expression shift from calm to ice-cold in seconds. Get your things. Now. His voice was pure command. What's happening? Someone leaked the location of my warehouse in San Pedro. Police are raiding it. And whoever tried to kill me last week just sent a message saying I'm next. He was already moving, grabbing keys, a bag she suspected held more than clothes. We have 10 minutes before they track me here. Maya's cop instincts screamed at her. A raid. She should stay, should call Chris, should. Jin-Woo's hand closed around her wrist. Ji-Yun. I won't let them hurt you because you're near me. Please. Trust me. The desperation in his eyes made her decision. Okay. The safe house was 2 hours outside the city, a small cabin nestled in the woods, rustic and isolated. Jin-Woo's phone was off, discarded along the highway. No contact with the outside world. Just them. How long do we stay here? Maya asked, staring at the cabin's simple interior. 1 bedroom, a kitchenette, a fireplace. Until Min-Jun signals it's clear. Could be a day. Could be a week. Jin-Woo set down their bags, ran a hand through his hair, the most disheveled she'd ever seen him. I'm sorry. You didn't sign up for this. I saved your life, remember? Kind of hard to regret that now. He looked at her then, really looked, and something in his expression shifted. You're not afraid. Should I be? Most people are. Of me. Of this life. He moved closer. But you make me breakfast. You argue with me about books. You look at me like I'm just a man. Aren't you? I stopped being just a man a long time ago. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Maybe you're wrong. The fire crackled in the silence between them. That night they shared the bed. The couch was too small, Jin-woo insisted, and he'd sleep on the floor. Don't be ridiculous, Maya said. We're both adults. Just stay on your side. He smiled, rare, genuine, beautiful. Yes, ma'am. But in the darkness, with only the sound of rain against the roof, the distance between them felt both infinite and impossibly small. Jin-woo, she whispered. Earlier, you said your grandmother taught you about honor. What did she say? A long pause. She said honor isn't about being perfect. It's about knowing when you've done wrong and trying to do better. His voice was rough. I think about that a lot. Wonder if I've gone too far to ever do better. Maya turned toward him, could barely make out his profile in the moonlight. It's never too late. To change. To choose differently. You really believe that? I have to. He rolled to face her, and suddenly they were inches apart. Why? Because if you can't be redeemed, then I'm falling for a monster. Because if people can't change, then what's the point of anything? Because everyone deserves a second chance, she whispered. Even someone like me? Especially someone like you. His hand found hers in the darkness, fingers intertwining. Neither of them pulled away. The next morning, Maya woke to the smell of coffee and found Jin-woo at the stove, attempting to make eggs. You can dismantle a criminal empire, but you can't cook breakfast, she teased, padding over in bare feet. My talents lie elsewhere. He gestured helplessly at the pan. This is harder than it looks. She hip-checked him aside, laughing. Move. Before you burn down the safe house. As she cooked, he stood close, closer than necessary, his presence warm at her back. Thank you, he said softly. For saving you from scrambled egg disaster? For making me feel normal. Even if just for a moment. Maya turned, and the vulnerability in his face stole her breath. No mask. No armor. Just Jin-woo. You are normal, she said. Under everything else. You're just a man who's scared and trying to protect the people he loves. Is that how you see me? She reached up, her palm against his cheek. It's how I'm starting to. He leaned into her touch, eyes closing. Ji-yun. Don't. She didn't know what she was asking for. Don't speak. Don't break this moment. Don't make me remember why this is impossible. When he kissed her, it felt like falling and flying at once. His lips were soft, hesitant, asking permission with every movement. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, and the kiss deepened into something desperate and real. They broke apart, foreheads pressed together, both breathing hard. I've never, Jin-woo's voice was wrecked. I've never felt safe with anyone. Not since my parents died. But with you. I know. Maya's eyes burned with tears she couldn't explain. I know. Who are you really? He whispered against her lips. The question was a knife. I'm the woman sent to destroy you. I'm the sister of the man your organization killed. I'm a lie wrapped in skin. Someone who shouldn't be here, she said, the most honest thing she'd spoken in weeks. Then why does it feel so right? She kissed him again instead of answering, because words were impossible, and this feeling, this connection, this terrible beautiful mistake, was the only truth she had left. Outside, rain continued to fall. Inside, two people who should have been enemies held each other like they could rewrite fate through touch alone. And for one perfect, impossible moment, Maya let herself forget everything except the way his heartbeat matched hers. They had 3 days. 3 days of existing in a bubble where the world outside didn't matter. Where Maya could pretend she was Ji-yun Park, just a woman falling for a complicated man. Where Jin-woo smiled freely and talked about opening a restaurant someday, going legitimate, walking away from it all. 3 days of borrowed time. It ended with a phone call. Jin Woo's burner phone, the one he'd kept for emergencies, buzzed on the morning of day 4. Maya watched his expression harden as he listened, the softness draining away like water through a sieve. Understood. I'm coming back. He ended the call and looked at her. It's clear. We can go home. Home. The word felt like a lie. The drive back was silent. Jin Woo's hand found hers twice, squeezed gently. She squeezed back, memorizing the feeling. When they reached the city limits, her phone, which she'd left behind, had 43 missed calls. All from Captain Morrison. I need to check in with work, she said. The club is probably wondering where I am. Take the day. I'll handle Mrs. Lim. Jin Woo's thumb traced circles on her wrist. Meet me for dinner tonight? There's something I want to ask you. Her heart clenched. What is it? Later. When I can do it properly. He smiled, and it reached his eyes. 8 o'clock. Wear something nice. He kissed her forehead and left her at her apartment building. The moment he was gone, Maya called Chris. Jesus Christ, Maya, where have you been? His voice was frantic. We've been trying to reach you for 3 days. Morrison was ready to send in a tactical team. I'm fine. I was with Jin Woo. We had to lay low after the warehouse raid. She unlocked her apartment door. Chris, I need more time. I'm close. Really close. He trusts me now. That's the problem. Maya froze. What? Morrison knows. About the safe house. About everything. Chris's voice dropped. We've had surveillance on you since you went under. The wire you wore to the club? It had a tracker. We know you spent 3 days alone with him. Ice flooded her veins. You've been tracking me? Standard protocol for undercover ops. And it's a good thing we did, because we just got actionable intel. Jin Woo's moving a major shipment tonight. Weapons, drugs, the whole deal. We're moving in. No. Wait. It's already in motion. Raid is set for 9 p.m. We need you to keep him distracted. Take him to that dinner. Keep him away from the warehouse until we secure the scene. Maya's mind reeled. Chris, listen to me. Listen to me. His voice turned hard. I know what's happening. I can hear it in your voice. You're getting attached. But he's still a criminal, Maya. He's still responsible for deaths, for violence, for your brother. What if he wasn't? The words burst out. What if he didn't know? What if? What if doesn't matter? We have evidence. We have a warrant. And you're either a cop or you're not. A pause. So what's it gonna be? Maya stared at her reflection in the apartment window. Saw a stranger staring back. I'm a cop, she whispered. Good. Then do your job. Keep him at dinner. 9 p.m. Don't blow this. The line went dead. She wore the black dress. Put on makeup with shaking hands. Looked in the mirror and hated herself. Jin Woo picked her up at 8 in a different car, something low-key, a simple sedan. He wore a dark suit but no tie, the top button of his shirt undone. Casual elegance. You look beautiful, he said, and meant it. Thank you. The words tasted like ash. The restaurant was intimate, a small Korean place, quiet and elegant. He'd reserved the whole back room. Just them. Over bibimbap and soju, he talked about his sister's graduation next month. Asked if Ji-Yun would come with him. Meet her. I've never introduced anyone to her before, he admitted. But you're different. You make me want to be better. To actually be the man my grandmother hoped I'd become. Maya's chest cracked open. Jin Woo. Wait. Let me say this. He reached across the table, took her hand. I know this is fast. I know my life is complicated. But these past few weeks, you've reminded me what it feels like to be human. Not a boss. Not a criminal. Just Jin Woo. 9 p.m. Keep him distracted. She glanced at her watch. 8:47. I'm thinking of getting out, he continued. Really out. I've been setting things up, legitimate businesses, legal investments. I can turn everything over to Min Jun, let him run the organization. My sister graduates in 6 weeks. After that, I'm done. You mean that? I've never meant anything more. His grip tightened. And I want you there. With me. If you'll have me. 8:52. Somewhere across the city, tactical teams were moving into position. Chris was probably in the command van. Captain Morrison would be there too, watching it all unfold. And she was here, keeping Jean Woo distracted, helping them cage the man who just offered her everything. Say something, Jean Woo whispered. Please. Maya opened her mouth. And then his phone rang. Min Jun. Jean Woo's expression changed as he listened. What? How many? A pause. I'm coming now. He stood, threw cash on the table. I'm sorry. There's a situation at. The restaurant door burst open. Tactical officers. Vests. Guns. Kong Jean W.O., you're under arrest. Everything moved in slow motion. Jean Woo's hand went to his waistband. No weapon, just instinct, and 3 officers tackled him. He hit the ground hard, face pressed against the floor. And then he saw her. Saw her standing frozen, not surprised, not shocked, knowing. Captain Morrison walked in, nodded at her. Good work, Detective Chun. Jean Woo's eyes went wide. Then dead. Detective. His voice was barely audible. Maya couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Your name isn't Ji-yun. Not a question. A fact, cold and final. Was any of it real? His face was pressed against the tile, but his eyes, God, his eyes were destroying her. The safe house? The kiss? Any of it. Jean Woo. Was it real? He shouted it, raw and broken, and the sound echoed through the restaurant like a gunshot. Maya's tears fell. I'm sorry. He laughed, a horrible, shattered sound. Of course. Of course you are. They hauled him up, cuffed his hands behind his back. As they dragged him past her, he stopped. Looked at her one last time. I was going to ask you to marry me tonight, he said quietly. The ring's in my jacket pocket. Guess you can add it to evidence. Then he looked away. And the shutters came down on his expression, leaving nothing but ice. I have nothing to say without my lawyer, he told Morrison. He didn't look at Maya again. Not once. Not even as they led him out into the night, into the car, into custody. Maya stood in the empty restaurant, her perfect dress, her perfect makeup, her perfect lie. And she shattered. The interrogation room smelled like stale coffee and fluorescent regret. Maya watched through the two-way glass as Jean Woo sat in silence, his lawyer beside him. He hadn't spoken a word beyond requesting counsel. Hadn't eaten. Hadn't slept. Just sat there, staring at the metal table, his expression carved from stone. He's not talking, Captain Morrison said, coming up beside her. Not even to save himself. His whole organization's going down, and he won't give us anything. Maybe there's nothing to give, Maya heard herself say. Morrison looked at her sharply. You did good work, detective. Because of you, we've dismantled one of the largest criminal networks on the West Coast. You should be proud. Proud. The word felt obscene. Captain, I need to see the evidence again. The file on my brother. Maya. Please. He sighed but led her to the evidence room. Maya spread the files across the table with shaking hands. Daniel's case. Jean Woo's organization. 5 years of investigation. And then she saw it. The authorization for Daniel's death, signed by someone named Lee Sung-min. Not Jean Woo. The date, 3 months before Jean Woo took over the organization. She pulled more files. Transaction records. Testimonies. A pattern emerged. Lee Sung-min, Jean Woo's former underboss. The man Jean Woo had exiled 6 months ago for operating outside acceptable parameters. The man who'd been running rogue operations for years. The man Jean Woo had been trying to stop. Her hands trembled as she found the final piece, Jean Woo's personal records, seized from his penthouse. Lists of crimes he'd been quietly fixing, paying restitution to families, shutting down trafficking rings his predecessors had run, dismantling the worst parts of the empire he'd inherited. He hadn't been building a criminal organization. He'd been trying to dismantle it from the inside. "Oh God," Maya whispered. "Oh God, what have I done?" She ran. Chris caught her in the hallway. "Maya, wait." "He didn't do it." Her voice was wild, desperate. "My brother. Jin-Woo didn't order that hit. It was Lee Sung-min. Jin-Woo wasn't even in charge yet." "I know." She stopped. "What?" Chris couldn't meet her eyes. "Morrison found that out 2 days ago. We've been building a case against Lee for weeks." The world tilted. "Then why did we arrest Jin-Woo?" "Because he's still a criminal. Still ran an illegal organization. The fact that he was trying to clean it up doesn't erase what he is." Chris grabbed her shoulders. "Maya, listen to me. You did the right thing. He's not innocent. But he's not guilty of what I thought he was." She shoved him away. "I destroyed him for a crime he didn't commit. You did your job. I fell in love with him." The words echoed in the hallway. Chris stared at her. "And then I betrayed him," Maya continued, her voice breaking. "For nothing. For a lie. For revenge that doesn't even make sense anymore." "It's done, Maya. Let it go." "No." She straightened, something hardening in her chest. "No, I won't." Maya walked into the interrogation room without permission. Jin-Woo's lawyer protested. Morrison shouted through the glass. She ignored them all. Jin-Woo didn't look up. "I know about Lee Sung-min," she said quietly. His jaw tightened. "That was all. I know he killed my brother. I know you didn't order it. I know you exiled him when you found out what he'd been doing." She moved closer. "I know you've been trying to fix everything he broke. Does it matter?" His voice was hollow. "I'm still here. Still in cuffs. Still destroyed by someone he cut himself off. "Someone you what?" Finally, he looked at her. His eyes were empty. "Someone I was stupid enough to trust." The words were a blade. "Jin-Woo, My sister came to see me this morning. Cried for an hour. Asked me how I could do this to her, throw away her future, embarrass her." His voice stayed flat. "She's dropping out of school. Says she can't face anyone now that the whole world knows what her brother is." Maya's throat closed. "So congratulations, detective. You got your collar. Your revenge. Your justice." He leaned back in his chair. "I hope it was worth it." It wasn't. Tears streamed down her face. "It wasn't worth any of it. And I'm going to fix this." "There's nothing to fix. I'm guilty. Maybe not of your brother's death, but of 1,000 other things. We both know that." He looked away. "Just go. Please. Haven't you done enough?" "No." Maya's voice turned to steel. "Not nearly enough." She stood, walked to the door, and turned back one last time. "I love you," she said. "I know you don't believe me. I know I don't deserve to say it. But it's true. Everything at the safe house, that was real. The realest thing I've ever felt." Jin-Woo's expression didn't change. "Goodbye, Detective Chun." She left before she completely fell apart. In Captain Morrison's office, Maya placed her badge and gun on the desk. "What are you doing?" Morrison demanded. "The right thing." "Finally." She met his eyes. "Jin-Woo Kong wasn't responsible for my brother's death. Lee Sung-min was. And you knew that before the raid. That doesn't change. It changes everything. You used my grief to manipulate me into taking down someone who was actually trying to make things better." Her voice shook with fury. "I'm testifying. For the defense. About Lee Sung-min. About everything Jin-Woo was actually doing. You'll destroy your career. I already destroyed the only thing that mattered." She turned to leave. "My career is the least of what I've lost." "Maya." "I'm done, Captain. With the lies. With using people. With pretending revenge is the same thing as justice." She paused at the door. "I became a cop to honor my brother. But Daniel would be ashamed of what I've done. I know I am. She walked out, leaving her badge behind. For the first time in 5 years, Maya Chun had no mission. Only a choice: let Jin Woo burn for crimes he didn't commit, or fight to save the man who'd saved her first. It wasn't even a question. The courthouse was quieter than Maya expected. She sat on a wooden bench outside the courtroom, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. She'd spent the last 6 weeks building her testimony, tracking down every piece of evidence that proved Jin Woo had been dismantling his organization from within. Lee Sung-min was already in custody, arrested 3 weeks ago for Daniel's murder and 17 other crimes. The case against Jin Woo had shifted. Not dropped, but different. Her phone buzzed. "Chris, you don't have to do this." She turned it off. The courtroom doors opened. "Maya Chun? They're ready for you." Jin Woo sat at the defense table in a suit that didn't fit quite right, prison issue. He'd lost weight. His eyes were hollow, fixed on the table in front of him. He didn't look at her as she took the stand. "Detective Chun," the defense attorney began, or should I say, former Detective Chun. "Can you tell the court about your relationship with Mr. Kong?" Maya's voice was steady. "I was assigned to go undercover to gather evidence against him. I infiltrated his organization under a false identity." "And what did you discover?" "That Jin Woo Kong inherited a criminal empire built by violent men. That he'd been systematically removing the worst elements, shutting down trafficking operations, refusing protection rackets that targeted families, exiling members who operated outside his code of ethics." She pulled out documents. "These are financial records showing restitution payments to victims of crimes committed before he took control. He was trying to fix what he couldn't escape." The prosecutor objected. The judge allowed it. "And your brother, Daniel Chin? What did you learn about his death?" This was it. The moment she'd been running toward for 5 years. "Lee Sung-min ordered my brother's execution. Jin Woo had nothing to do with it. He didn't even control the organization yet." Her voice cracked. "I blamed the wrong man. And I used his feelings for me to destroy him." "Did Mr. Kong know your real identity when you were undercover?" "No. He believed I was Ji-Yun Park, a hostess at his club. He trusted me, protected me, saved my life." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "And I betrayed that trust for revenge that didn't even make sense." "No further questions, Your Honor." The prosecutor stood. "Ms. Chun, regardless of Mr. Kang's attempts at reform, he still ran an illegal organization. Are you asking this court to excuse his crimes?" Maya finally looked at Jin Woo. He was staring at her now, his expression unreadable. "No," she said quietly. "I'm asking the court to see the full picture. To see a man who inherited darkness and tried to bring light. Who protected his sister at the cost of his own soul. Who was becoming better every day." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm asking for the mercy he showed others. The mercy he deserved from me and didn't get." No further questions. The judge delivered his verdict 3 hours later. Jin Woo would serve 2 years for his role in the organization, with credit for time served and cooperation against Lee Sung-min and other criminal elements. After that, probation. A chance. As they led him out, Jin Woo stopped beside Maya in the gallery. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for telling the truth. Even though it cost you everything." "It didn't cost me everything." Her voice shook. "I still have the truth. And hope. That maybe someday you'll forgive me." Something flickered in his eyes. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But not hatred either. "We'll see," he said. And then he was gone. 2 years later. The tea shop appeared on a Tuesday. Maya had opened her private investigation firm 6 months ago, helping families find closure, tracking down missing persons, doing the work that mattered. Her office was small, above a dry cleaner in Koreatown, but it was hers. When the tea shop opened next door, she almost didn't notice. Until she walked in one morning, desperate for caffeine, and froze. Jin Woo stood behind the counter in a simple black apron, preparing tea with the same precision he'd once used for everything else. His sister, graduated now, working as a nurse, laughed at something he said as she arranged pastries in the display case. He looked up. Saw her. For a long moment, Neither of them moved. Then Jin-woo picked up a cup, prepared jasmine tea the way she'd always liked it, and brought it to her. "On the house," he said quietly. "For old times." Maya's hands trembled as she took the cup. "You opened a tea shop." "I told you I wanted to open a restaurant someday." This seemed simpler, quieter. A ghost of a smile. Honest. "It suits you." "I'm trying to suit myself these days." He paused. "I heard about your firm. Helping people find answers. That suits you too." "We both found new paths." "We did." He held her gaze. Maya. Her real name. After all this time. The sound of it nearly broke her. "I've spent 2 years being angry, hurt, betrayed. And I was right to feel all of that." He took a breath. "But I also spent 2 years thinking about what you said in court. About the truth. About mercy. About becoming better." Tears burned her eyes. Jin-woo. "I'm not saying I forgive you. Not completely. Not yet." His voice softened. "But I'm saying, maybe I could. Someday. If you're willing to be patient. To let me learn to trust again." "I'll wait." The words came out fierce, certain. "However long it takes. Even if it takes years." Even then. He studied her face, searching for lies, for masks, for anything false. Found only raw, painful honesty. "Start with tea," he finally said. "Come back tomorrow. Same time. We'll talk. Really talk. No missions. No lies. Just 2 people trying to figure out if broken things can be fixed." Maya nodded, unable to speak past the hope blooming in her chest. As she turned to leave, he called her name one more time. "Maya." "Yes." "The person you were at the safe house, was that real?" She turned back, let him see everything in her eyes. "That was the most real I've ever been." Something thawed in his expression. "Then maybe we have a chance after all." 6 months later. The tea shop had become Maya's morning ritual. Tea. Conversation. Slow, careful steps toward rebuilding trust. Some days were easy. They talked about books, about his sister's new relationship, about the families Maya helped reunite. He told her about the meditation classes he'd started, the therapy that helped him process everything. Other days were hard. When the weight of betrayal sat between them like a wall. When he pulled away, not ready. When she hated herself for the choices she'd made. But they kept showing up. Kept trying. Kept choosing each other over and over, in small daily ways. On a rainy Thursday morning, Maya walked into the tea shop to find it closed. A note on the door, "Come upstairs." Heart pounding, she climbed to the apartment above the shop. Jin-woo stood in the center of a room filled with flowers, white orchids, like the ones he'd sent to the hospital 2 years ago. But also roses. Peonies. Jasmine blooms. "What is this?" she whispered. 2 years ago, I had a ring in my pocket and a question I never got to ask. He moved closer. "I'm not proposing. Not yet. We're not there. But I wanted you to know," his voice caught. "I'm choosing to try. Really try. To let you in. To trust you. To see where this goes." Maya's tears fell freely now. "Why?" "Because loving you was the most real thing I've ever felt. Even when it hurt. Even when it broke me." He cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing away her tears. "And I think we've both paid enough. Don't you?" "Yes," she breathed. "God, yes." When he kissed her, it felt like coming home after a long, brutal war. "No more masks," he whispered against her lips. "No more masks," she promised. They stood together in a room full of flowers, 2 broken people who'd found each other in the wreckage, choosing love over revenge, mercy over justice, hope over despair. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. And real, Maya had learned, was worth fighting for. Outside, rain washed the streets clean. Inside, 2 hearts beat in sync, learning the rhythm of forgiveness. Learning that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is choose to heal. Together.